North Korea says it's in a state of war with South Korea. Tensions are growing between the two countries. Thousands of North Korean soldiers marched at a rally in Pyongyang after leader Kim Jong-un ordered missiles to be pointed at U.S. targets. South Korea and the U.S. have been holding annual military exercises, which North Korea sees as a provocation. North Korea's allies China and Russia have called for calm, but the Russian foreign minister blames the U.S. for raising tensions in the region.
It worries us that along with the adequate reaction of the UN Security Council and the collective reaction of the world community, there are unilateral actions taken against North Korea that are demonstrated by increasing military activity. We can't let the situation simply slip out of control, and this will spiral into a vicious cycle.
Upholding the peace and stability of the Korean Peninsula as well as Northeast Asia serves the common interests of all parties. We hope that relevant parties will work together in pushing for a turnaround of the tense situation.
So what does North Korea have in its arsenal? First, with a range of 1,000 kilometers, the Nodong missile could strike any target in South Korea as well as parts of Japan. The Taepodong-1 can hit targets up to 2,200 kilometers away, putting all of Japan within reach. The long-range Musudan missile could strike the U.S. territory of Guam in the western Pacific. And the Taepodong-2 could reach the U.S. state of Alaska, which is about 6,000 kilometers away. But there are doubts whether North Korea has the technology to guide its long-range missiles to their targets. Robert Kelly is professor of political science and diplomacy at Pusan National University in South Korea. He joins us now via Skype from there. Welcome to the program, Robert. This is not the first time that there's been talk of war on the Korean Peninsula. How real do you think the threat is this time?
It's worse than usual. The North is saying things that it hasn't said before. It does say blustery sorts of things like this fairly frequently every couple of years. And it does have a record of testing new Korean presidents, right? We have a new president just a month ago. So this is not unexpected, but the language is harsher than usual. That's right.
Some Korea analysts are saying that the risk at present isn't a full-scale war or nuclear attack, but rather miscalculation by either North Korea or the U.S. and South Korea. Do you agree?
Yeah, I do. I think the biggest threat is actually miscalculation on the North Korean side. The North has provoked South Korea in the past, and usually South Korea has held its fire. In 2010, though, the North was pretty nasty. They did 2 big provocations in a row. And basically after that, South Korean policy shifted. The South Korean government started saying, if they do this again, we're going to hit back. And I think that's what people worry about, that the new leader in North Korea, Kim Jong-un, doesn't know that and might take a risk and then face a South Korean counterstrike.
What do you think is driving North Korea's threats? Surely North Korea can't afford to start a war.
Yeah, that's right. If there's a war, they'll lose, even if they use nuclear weapons. And this is important. Even if they use nuclear weapons, they'll still lose. They don't have enough nuclear weapons yet to make a big difference in a war, right? Obviously, they kill many people, right? But the nuclear weapons aren't developed and sophisticated enough to change the balance. I think the real issue is regime security at home. I think a lot of this language is meant for domestic consumption in North Korea to bolster the new leader.
Do you think there's anything that can be done to cool tensions? Do you agree with Russia that the U.S. is to blame for raising tensions in the region?
I suppose the B-2 flyby wasn't a great idea, but I mean, it's really the North that has pushed this with the nuclear tests. I mean, all this is coming from the nuclear tests of the last few years and then the UN sanctions that have come back, right? I mean, the North Koreans have said several times, have actually stated this on paper, that denuclearization was their goal and everything else, but they keep rolling along. I mean, that's ultimately the real issue, right? The nuclear program, the rest of it sort of flows from that. So, I mean, are the Americans responsible? I guess maybe a little bit, but probably not that much.
Okay, Robert, thanks for speaking to us. Robert Kelly from Pusan University in South Korea.
Thank you for having me.